Hello YouTube, this is Morgan, Airspeed Prime here with my next Airspeed Plays TCG video. This one's going to be for Future Card Buddyfight, as you can see here. Obviously this is my series where I go through in detail about every single kind of bit about this game, explaining how to play it, different types of cards, collectability, maybe some of the competitive stuff at the end. But for now I'm going to start off with a bit of an introduction on this stuff. So, this is a really new game. This came out end of January. The two trial decks came out I think the last week in January. The first booster packs were released last day in January, so it's very new. This is made by Buddyfight, the same people who make Cardfight Vanguard. This is their new game. You can watch the episodes of this show on the official Future Card Buddyfight channel. They're up to episode 8. It's actually a surprisingly good anime in that the monsters are actually real in this world, and it's pretty interesting just in terms of the world that it is. It's not just the monsters are like holograms like Yu-Gi-Oh, or it is just a card game like Vanguard. There is actually a sense of like this is a different world, so it's a pretty cool anime, and it's definitely a card game I've been very interested in because this is pretty much the first one of these card games that I'm reviewing, going over on my channel, that I'm going to be covering just as it's come out. Obviously I'm a bit late now because the place where I ordered it from had huge delays with their getting their shipment in. It wasn't their fault, it was completely their distributor's fault, but I have it now, and you've seen my opening video, which I think is the previous video before this one. But yeah, let's get into this. Just out, so that means there's only the first booster set out and these two trial decks. This is your trial deck number 1 for the main character Gao Mikado. It's called Dominant Dragons. It's a Dragon World deck. This is a Danger World deck for the main villain, apparently now in the show, Wolf, who may have a alternate personality. I think we as the audience are meant to know that, but the characters don't seem to know that just yet. This is a Danger World deck. So you get the two main starter worlds basically for the two trial decks. The other world in the game is, so far at least, is Magic World, which are these type of cards. But yes, so that's all that's available, just this, and the packs, Dragon Chief packs. They're the only products available for this right now. There is obviously a second booster set announced. There's an extra booster set coming out, which is just going to be Dragon World cards. So you're going to boost your Armor Dragons and Dragon Knights with that set. And then I think they'll also have extra boosters as well. So there's going to be a bunch of product available eventually for this. But for now, it's very basic. This is an easy game to get into right now. Get two trial decks and get as many packs as you want, basically. But as usual, let's start off with what you actually get in one of these decks. Here is the obviously main deck for Gao Mikado. You get 52 cards in this, plus the other stuff. So that's it. It's standard Bushiroad packaging, the same as it's basically identical to a Vanguard box. You know, the cards are Magic the Gathering Pokemon sized and not Yu-Gi-Oh card sized, so they are bigger than Vanguard cards. But yeah, what you get in this is like pretty much every other starter deck. You get your stuff in one of these plastic things. You get your rule book. You also get one of these mats, these paper field mats that just folds up, and on the back of it is just a kind of strategy thing, how you play each deck. It's just half and half, so you get the same one in each deck. This half describes the Dragon deck, this half describes the Danger World deck. It's just the basic stuff, how to play the game, but that's what you get in that. Plus, you also get this, which is your life counter, which I really like. You only have 10 life in this game, and they give you something straight away to show how you do that, and you just move this card inside up and down to show your life. You start on 10, and obviously if you go down to 0 you lose, but there's also, if you take the card out and switch it around, you can do 11 to 20, and you're rarely going to get anywhere near that, so that's pretty cool. It's just a completely open thing, so you can push it through the bottom as well. So I like that they give you this, and there's the one for the Danger World deck. They have the two different cards on them, characters on it. So I think their plan is with this game is to do a lot of trial decks. Basically every character in the show is more or less going to get a trial deck eventually, so that's pretty cool. You get that. you're going to get your favorite character's trial deck at some stage probably. But for now we have to deal with Danger World and Dragon World decks. And then in addition to that you get your 52 cards. So here's your flag card. I'll just go through the types of cards later on. And then you just get all your different cards. You get 2 shinies in each deck. So you get an impact card shiny and a monster shiny. And that's basically one of the most powerful monsters in the deck. And then your impact card is a sideways card that is really powerful. Used to end the games. But that's it. And there's obviously a lot of repeat cards. Like there's usually 2, 3, 4 copies of each card in each deck. And that's what you do in the game. You need to have multiple copies of cards. Danger World deck, you get your Danger World flag, plus there's the main card for Danger World, and then their impact card is shiny impact card is there. You also get normal copies as well. And then this is what a booster pack looks like. Obviously, I've opened this, but you get 5 cards in each pack, 3 commons, 1 uncommon, and then a rare or above card depending on how lucky you are. Rares are just normal cards with some shiny lettering on them. Double rares are like this, and they're fully shiny, and triple rares super shiny. I didn't get one. And then there's SPs, which are really rare, and I think they're just copies of other rarities, just in a different shiny pattern, but they're rarer. And then there's one buddy rare card, which is obviously the kind of gimmick of the show. You choose your buddy monster to fight with, and there's one of those in this pack, and it's the rarest card in the pack. It's Jackknife Dragon, which is one of the other main characters' cards, and it's completely gold. I didn't get that one. But yeah, pretty cool pack. But yeah, that's the product that's available at the start of this game. Next, I'll go on to showing you the different types of cards. Okay, so let's go through the different types of cards now. First up is your flag, which really isn't a necessary card for the deck. Like, it doesn't do anything. You choose your world, and your flag basically represents your world. There is a spot for it on the playmat, and you put it there. But really, it just basically represents you. When you take damage, your flag is the thing that gets attacked. But as you can see here from the text, it just means that if you use a Dragon World deck, you can only use Dragon World cards and also generic cards, which aren't from any world. Just to stop you mixing every single world into one. And that's what it is. Your flag just represents what world you are. Obviously, the only way right now to really get all of the flags is you get the Dragon World flag in the Dragon World deck, Danger World flag in the Danger World deck, but the only way to get the Magic World flag is to buy a box of the booster packs, and you get a pack that have all 3 flags in it. So it's not a requirement, but it's obviously nice to have. And just to show this straight away, there's the Danger World flag, and this will be a common thing throughout all of the cards between worlds. The card, not just the picture is different, but the design of the card is different. You can see the Danger World pattern, the kind of caution sign pattern all around the card for Danger World, while with Dragon World, it's kind of got scales and fire all around it. And you'll see this as I compare all of the different card types to it. Next up we have our monsters, and they come in multiple different kind of styles. I just realized I forgot to take out certain cards as an example. But yeah, you've got four sizes of monster. That's the key thing with monsters. You've got size 0, size 1, size 2, and size 3. And the rule about monsters is that you can only have up to size 3 on the field. So you can have 3 zeros, 3 ones, a 2 and a 1, and a 0, a 3 and a 0. Zeros are the only things that can go with 3s, but that's the key thing about the monsters. And then, if you look at them, on the side they have a number in red, a number in white, and a number in blue. The red number is their attack, the white number is their critical, the amount of damage they do when they attack your flag directly. Basically the number of points they'll take off you. And then the blue number is their defense. In addition to that, you have some flavor text, obviously the picture. you have the kind of attribute or kind of tribe in each clan that they're from. You have what world they're in, name, and then at the bottom it says, you know, number of the card, if it's a common, rare, or so whatever. In this case, obviously this is 0, and it's got no effect, this card, because it's a grade 0, it doesn't need any effect, so I'll just put that back with those cards. Obviously, size 1, nothing really different. Obviously, different numbers, they're more powerful than grade 0s. More flavor text, but you can see there, this is an armor dragon of the dragon world. Then the size 2 does actually have an effect, and I can show you something different here. This Rising Flare Dragon, it has a call cost, so to actually play this on the field, you have to use 2 gauge, and that's what you do. Your gauge is obviously something you store up over the course of the game, so it's basically what you have, your kind of stock that you have, and then you eventually use that. And it's also got an effect: when it enters the field, destroy an opponent's monster that's size 2 or less. So that's what an effect looks like. And then our size 3, yeah, obviously is really powerful. It has 8,000 attack, 4 critical, 8,000 defense, and a big call cost of 3. And in addition, it says these are armor dragons and also red dragons. Now, the reason that this is a kind of important thing is mainly because of cards like this. So this is a Dragon Knight, and really these represent the 2 clans right now in Dragon World. You can either have an armor dragon deck or a Dragon Knight deck, and they're different. You see in the show that they kind of argue about this as well. The armor dragons hate the Dragon Knights, and I think vice versa as well. So there will be 2 different decks. The Dragon Trial deck is an armor dragon deck, and his school rival has a Dragon Knight deck. So that's some fun stuff. That's interesting. But as I showed you just there with the grade 0, you can see the same applies for the monsters. They also have the different card pattern, and it's the same for every one of them. Next we move on to item cards, and these are basically weapon cards in short. I assume they'll have something different because, as you see down here, it says dragon/weapon. So I assume as the game goes on, they'll change this a bit. But these are interesting that you can see they have an attack power, they have a critical power, but no defense. And the idea here is that you actually equip the weapon onto yourself or your flag. You basically join the battlefield. So your defense is basically your life points here. So when your weapon gets attacked, it's basically your flag getting attacked, and so the critical damage is taken away, and your weapon is just an equip, as you can see here. These have a cost as well that are basically call costs. This is discard 1 card from your hand and pay 1 gauge. See, it's a dragon weapon, Dragon Blade, Drago Brave. And then here's another one. It's a bit weaker, but no call cost, which is the plus for that card. Next up are spells. There's a few different types, but mainly in this trial deck you only get 1 type. There's like some keywords on them, but these are your magic cards from Yu-Gi-Oh! Stuff like that. This is Green Dragon Shield. You can see it has you can only play it at a certain point, and counter basically means you can play it during your opponent's turn. And this nullifies an attack and gains you 1 life, so that's pretty good. And that's what those spells are about. Some of them have a cost, some of them don't. Last but not least is the impact card. This is your kind of, as you can see from the turn progress, final phase is when you play your impact card. This is usually a card that will end the game or swing the game in your favor. It's got a huge cost of 4 gauge and also really specific requirements. Your opponent and yourself can't have a monster in the center circle, and your opponent has to have 4 life or less. But they instantly lose the game because they lose 4 damage. I think there's some really crazy ways to avoid it, but you have to have very specific cards. But overall, that's the thing. And you can see even with the impact card, you've also got the different card designs, the Danger and Dragon World card designs. So there's that too. But yeah, they're the main types of cards. Just from playing the game for a bit, grade 3s you don't want too many in your deck because they all have pretty high call costs. So mainly you want to stick to like 1s and 2s. Dragon World right now has no grade 0s, but Danger World has a couple. So they'll be useful when Dragon World actually gets them. Weapons are obviously risky to play because while they're really attack focused, they also leave you wide open. So there's some really nice stuff about this game, but they're the main types of cards. And then last but not least, I'll just show you some of the other worlds. So here is what a Magic World card looks like. And once again, you can see, like this up here, different design on the cards. The numbers look different. The writing of the card name looks different. It's got blue, it's got kind of spell circles all around it. It's very different. Then, the last real thing to show you would be a generic card. And this is what a generic card looks like. And as you can see, it looks very generic. It's just white, it's got the standard Buddyfight thing going on in the background. The generic do have like tribe attribute type things. Like this is a chess card, and there's a bunch of other chest themed cards in the set. But they're just normal cards. Usually have a bit higher cost than world specific cards, but some of them seem pretty useful, and you could very much add them to any deck because all of the flags right now say Dragon World and generic cards. I'm wondering, will they ever do a generic world or something like that? That gives you a bonus for using just generics. That would be really cool. But yeah, that's the different types of cards. You'll get to see how they work more in the next segment, which is going to be how to play the game, setup and stuff like that. So I'll cut to that next. Okay, so here is the board set up ready for play. You each put your flag in the flag item zone. You put one monster from your deck into the buddy zone. It can be any monster from your deck. But the key thing with choosing a buddy monster is that it should be a card that you have multiples of, and preferably a lot of multiples. This card does not count towards the amount of single cards you can have in your deck. So in this case, we chose Jamadar Dragon over here as our buddy monster. This is one of them. There's only 3 in this deck because that's the number you get in the trial deck. But you're actually allowed to have 4. So on your field, you're allowed to have 5. But you're only allowed to have 4 here. And it doesn't give you too much of an advantage, but it's interesting that you're allowed to choose Buddy Monster and have 4 of them. So it's the only card you're allowed to have 5 of, basically, in your deck. Though this never actually is in your deck. Yeah, you choose a Buddy Monster from your deck. Your opponent does the same. You start the game with these 2 cards face down, obviously, so you don't give your opponent any information about what world you are beforehand or what your buddy monster is. And then when you actually start to play, you flip them over. I put the life point counter right here, just so it's easy, and it makes sense, makes it even. Then what you do is you draw 6 cards from the top of your deck, 6 cards, and then you put the next 2 cards from the top of your deck into your gauge zone to start off. That's the key to playing the game, and the same is the case over here. Now, basically then when you're ready to play, you flip a coin, decide who's going first. The player who wins the coin toss goes first automatically. You don't get a choice about going second or not. If you win the coin toss, you go first, and you flip your cards over and say raise the flag as you flip these 2 over. That's what they do in the show, that's what the rule book says, but you don't need to do that really, I suppose. And then you're ready to play. So let's look at the cards we got in our opening hand. Sorry if some of this is really awkward. I have to hold the camera in one hand and then try and actually play the game with just one hand, so it's awkward. But we got a size 1 monster here, impact card, a size 2 monster, spell, and a size 2. Obviously we got 2 Rising Flare Dragons here, and yeah. Impact card, we're not going to be able to use this for a few turns, but it's going to be important because that's probably one of the key strategies of this deck. Once you get your opponent down to 4 with Gargantua Punisher, you've won the game and you have 4 gauge. This is a good defensive card, good counter card, Drago Energy, but primarily on your first turn you focus on your monsters. But before that, we're still in the start phase here, you're allowed to do something called charge and draw. While on the first turn you're not allowed to actually draw a card, like straight up, you're allowed to do the other part of the draw step in this game, and that's charge and draw. You choose one card from your hand, put it into the gauge, and then draw another card. So in this case we have 2 Rising Flare Dragons. This card costs 2 gauge to pay, so we don't need 2 of them in our hand. So we put one of them into the gauge, bringing it up to 3, and then draw another card, and that's a different size 1 monster. Now we go from the start phase into the main phase. And this is where we're allowed to play monsters we want, any number of monsters. We're allowed to play items, those weapons or spells. And after that's the attack phase. But first up, we are going to decide what monster to play. On your first turn, you're only allowed to attack once, because your opponent's basically defenseless over there. So you only want to play one monster on your first turn, pretty much. We're not going to waste our gauge this early, so we won't use him. And there's just a choice between these two cards. I'm going to play 1000 Rapier Dragon to the center. And now, in regards to whereabouts you call it to, it doesn't really matter where you do it in terms of like attacking. It doesn't do any less damage depending on what zone you do it in. But placing a monster in the center protects your flag from damage. So your opponent has to attack your monster before they can attack your flag and do damage to you. So it's good to always protect your center. Item cards, while they kind of take up the center zone, they don't actually protect you. They just allow you to attack from the center. But yeah, we're allowed to attack once on our first turn. So you move the card from stand to rest, and you do, in this case, 2 damage to your opponent, and they go down to 8. As you can sort of see here, you just move the card up a little bit to 8. 2 damage done. Now we move to our opponent's turn, and because it's the second turn of the game now, they're allowed to just draw a card straight up from their deck. That's part of the draw phase. But then they're also allowed to do the charge and draw phase. So once you pass the first turn of the game, you actually technically draw 2 cards a turn, and you're allowed to sculpt your hand as you wish. So that's pretty cool. But for now, it's a decision on what to do. In this case, we have 2 of the same weapons here, Hysteric Spear. We also got 2 of the same monsters, in addition to a size 0 monster. So you don't really need multiple weapons, so we'll gauge 1 Hysteric Spear, bringing us up to 3, and then draw an extra card. We got our buddy monster here, Armor Knight Cerberus, and so we put him down here. So I'm going to demonstrate now how you buddy call a monster in a minute, but first let's get on with the actual specifics of this turn. They're going to first play a monster to the left, so that's a size 1, so the rest of the zone is open. They're also going to play a size 0 to the right. Then they're going to play a size 2 to the center. So as you can see, 1 plus 2 plus 0 adds up to 3. That's perfectly fine, even though usually a size 2 and 1 would be enough. But in this case, they can summon all of these 3 monsters to the field. Then Armor Knight Cerberus's effect activates. But first, I'm going to actually... That's one way you could have done this turn. The other way is, instead of just calling Armor Knight Cerberus, is to buddy call him. Armor Knight Cerberus is this player's buddy monster. So what you do is you... I don't know the specifics behind this, but I don't think it really matters. Basically what you do is, I think you switch the place of the card in your hand that's the same as the buddy monster, but the card in your hand goes into the buddy zone sideways, and then the buddy monster is called to the front, like that. And that way you know, because this card is sideways, you've buddy called your one time you can do it per game, and you have your buddy card that you chose in your field. But what it also does is it puts you up to... It gives you 1 extra life, so he goes from 8 to 9 now because he's buddy called. But other than that, it doesn't give you any additional advantage. I assume in later sets there will be cards that have a specific ability if they're buddy called. Otherwise, the mechanic seems quite basic, and it doesn't really do much, even though it's the main thing of the title, feature card Buddyfight, and Buddyfight only gives you a life. But anyway, Armor Knight Cerberus's effect then activates. It says when you obviously put it on the field, you may put a size 1 or less Armor Knight from the field into your soul. So the best thing to do here, I think, is to actually put the size 1 monster into the soul, and then what you can do is from your hand play another size 1 from your hand onto the field. And now Armor Knight Cerberus has 2 additional effects. One is a kind of defensive skill using that soul, and one is a offensive skill using the soul. You can either discard the soul to keep Armor Knight Cerberus from being destroyed, or discard it to destroy a monster on your opponent's side of the field. So it's a really good card. Early on in the game, it's probably not that good to use it like straight away, because your opponent could have like a lot of defensive cards. For instance, we do actually have a green dragon shield in our hand, so we can guard against one attack. But for now, let's just keep the soul there for later on in case we get destroyed. And now it's time to attack with this deck. And now what they can do is, obviously they want to get rid of this card first. That's the only way they can do damage to me. This only has 1000 defense, so any of their monsters, 4000 attack, 5000 attack, 5000 attack, can actually take this out. So the easiest thing to do is just do, okay, this only does 1 critical, our size 0 attacks are 1000 Rapier Dragon. We're going to defend this attack on this side of the field using green dragon shield. This can only be used during your opponent's turn when they attack, and basically you nullify the attack and also gain 1 life. So you just use it from your hand, there's no call cost, it goes to the drop zone here, it's used up, we gain 1 life, so we go up to 11. Sorry about this is really awkward to do. There we go up to 11, and the attack is nullified. So then they choose to attack with their monster on the right, which also has more attack than this thing's defense. It finally is destroyed this time, and now the center is open. Armor Knight Cerberus can attack, and it attacks the flag directly, doing damage. So Armor Knight Cerberus has 2 critical, so 2 damage is done to it. So we go from 11 down to 9. So there we go. The match is even now because of various increases and decreases in attack, in life. But now it comes back to our turn over in Dragon World. We draw a card this time, and then we charge and draw. This will bring us up to 4 gauge. In this case, it's probably best that we get rid of one of our cards here. I'm going to say the best monster to get rid of right now is probably the Systemic Dagger Dragon. So we'll gauge that going up to 4 and then draw another card. So this time we got our own Buddy monster in our hand this time. So that was a good draw. And now it's time to do some stuff. So now what can we do? There's a bunch of things we can do. These are the monsters that we have. We've got our Rising Flare Dragon, which has a call cost of 2 gauge. We've got our 1000 Rapier Dragon, which we used last turn, and we've got Jamadar Dragon, our Buddy monster. We don't really need to Buddy call just yet, I suppose, but it's an easy way to get back up to 10 life. In this case, I won't do that. I'll just regular call monsters. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually cast Rising Flare Dragon. So I'm going to call him to the center and pay 2 gauge. So you just take 2 of the cards. You don't get to look at it until they go into the drop zone. You just go from there. Now you're down 2 gauge, and when it enters the field, destroy an opponent's size 2 or less monster. We choose Armor Knight Cerberus, and then it has the ability Soul Guard. So remember we put the soul in it last turn. It has Soul Guard, so all it has to do is, instead of getting destroyed itself, it wastes its soul and it lives to fight another day. But now it's obviously weak to an attack, and we still haven't finished casting monsters. I'll play 1000 Rapier Dragon to the left, and then it's time to attack. 5000 attack, 5000 attack, that's what our 2 monsters are. 1000 Rapier Dragon will attack Armor Knight Cerberus. They, from their hand, cast this card, Battle Aura Circle, which just nullifies the attack. It's like a weaker green dragon shield, but it still nullifies the attack. So he's saved once again, and then we attack with Rising Flare Dragon, and this time we eventually do destroy Armor Knight Cerberus. But because of their defense and Soul Guard ability, we didn't actually do any damage this turn. And the key difference between these 2 decks is Danger World has a lot of really powerful monsters, while Dragon World probably has the better spells and it has the better impact card. So that's the end of this turn. But the thing is, the Dragon World deck also has this counter card, Drago Energy, which gives plus 3000 power and plus 3000 defense and counter attack, which is basically just allows you to destroy opponent's monsters during your opponent's attack phase. So this will already help on this turn. So our opponent draws a card, bringing them up to 3 cards, and then they get to charge and draw. This is their weaker weapon in the deck, so they charge that, they go up to 4 gauge and draw again. This time they draw their impact card. Their impact card is pay 2 gauge, you only cast this card if you don't have a monster in the center. For this turn, if you have a weapon, you can give it plus 4000, plus 2 critical, and the ability penetrate. And if the weapon hasn't attacked yet, you can attack with it. And this is obviously an attack in the final phase, so that's pretty good if they use a weapon. And in this case, they do actually have a weapon in hand, which is Hysteric Spear. So what you do to play a weapon card is, it basically goes over your flag. But I like to just kind of put it kind of half over the flag and also half over the center zone, just to show that it is kind of taking the place of a center monster. You can, if you want, actually place a monster in the center, and that does again protect your weapon and flag from being attacked. But I like just to do this to show that it is technically kind of a monster that just doesn't have any defense here. So they placed a monster in the center. The weapons don't have any power, which is interesting. And then also at the start of their turn, their other monsters which attacked last turn stand up again. So they're ready to attack again. To play Hysteric Spear, it costs 2 gauge, so they pay their cost. And now they can attack. Now, what they're going to do first is attack with their 4000 size 0 to destroy 1000 Rapier Dragon. There's no real point in using our Drago Energy because it's not going to be powerful enough to help. Next, they attack with their grade 1 5000 attack monster, attacking this. And this time we can use Drago Energy, so it's 5000 attack versus 4000 defense. We cast Drago Energy, which is a counter card, and you choose an armor dragon that's in battle, and for this battle give it 3000 attack and 3000 defense and counter attack. And then the ability counter attack is that if you survive a battle and you have more attack than the opposing monster's defense, that monster gets destroyed. So we go up to 8000 attack, 7000 defense, so we survive the attack, and our attack is also more powerful than their 6000 defense. This card has allowed us to counter attack also, which destroys their Armor Knight Hellhound. And then they finally, obviously this only lasts for one battle, it doesn't last for the whole turn, so we immediately go right back down to 5000, 4000, and now they can attack with their spear, so they just turn it sideways, and it has 5000 attack versus 4000 defense. It destroys us, but Hysteric Spear has an ability called Penetrate, and this means that if it destroys a monster, that monster's critical is deducted from your own, well, our own life points. So in this case, we lose 2 critical because our monster has 2 critical. So it's a pretty powerful effect. Gets destroyed, and we lose 2 critical and go down to 7. And now it's our turn again. But we kind of have a little bit of an advantage because they don't have a monster in the center, which means we can attack them directly. Their weapon has no defense. So what we do is we draw a card, and then we can charge and draw if we want, which we can do if we want. In this case, I'm going to charge this card and then draw another card. So we got another Gargantua Punisher. That's not great. Would have preferred to get another monster, but we have this guy, which means we can buddy call. So as I said, what we do to buddy call is the monster from the buddy card circle goes to the center, and then the monster from our hand, which is the same card, goes to our buddy zone in a rest position. And then we also gain 1 life and go up to 8. So now we can also attack. So we attack their life points, and they go down to 6. Oh wait, 7 I mean, sorry. They got into 7, and you can sort of see where how the game back and forth goes. Keeps swinging back and forth. A lot of it depends on how well you shape your hand. As you can see, I'm kind of made a little bit of a misplay doing the charge and draw here, because I got a card that I can't really use right now. They don't come into play until I have 4 gauge and my opponent's life points are only at 4. So it switches back to our opponent now. They draw a card. They already have an item in play. If they wanted to, they can play this item and it just replaces this one. Just like if you play a monster in this zone, it just replaces this one and stuff like that. You can play a size 3 on the field if you already have a size 2, but you have to get rid of the size 2. So you can always make space by destroying monsters on your field if you need to bring a higher size into it. But in this case they don't need this, so they charge it and then draw another card. In this case, they drew another Armor Knight Ogre, which they're going to play. Also, their cards stand back up again, and they've still got Armor Knight Ogre in their hand plus their impact card. So that is good. They can use that to attack this turn. So they're actually going to use the impact card this turn, but obviously that doesn't come into play until the final phase. So what they have to do is they have to keep this weapon stood up so they don't attack with it during the attack phase this time. Instead they just attack this into this, because the center has to be, well, in this case this impact card only has to have your own center clear, but for the effect to work properly you kind of have to damage the opponent's life directly. So this destroys Jamadar Dragon, and then they end their attack phase and go into their final phase. They then activate this impact card, which is called Drill Bunker. They pay 2 gauge, and then what they do is, you can only cast it if you do not have a monster in the center. It gives the weapon plus 4,000 attack, plus 2 critical, and also penetrate. So this actually has penetrate already. I think double penetrate is actually a thing. I'm not sure though. I'll have to read the full rulebook that's online. But in this case, double penetrate doesn't specifically matter. They get plus 2 critical, which means the critical goes up from 2 to 4, and that's really good. So the impact card goes to the drop zone, and then they attack with their weapon and do 4 damage to us. So that's a big chunk of damage. That brings us from 8 down to 4. And now it's our turn. We draw a card. And now this time our choice is easy for us. We have 2 Gargantua Punishers. We'll just charge and draw to get a new card. So in this case we got 2 pretty strong monsters. Now this is a card to use in the center, Bronze Shield Dragon. As you can tell, it's a defensive card, 6,000 defense. We'll play that in the center and we'll play this card on the right. There's no real difference between left and right in the game so far. Maybe they'll include cards that are specific, like it gains power if you use it on the left, but that seems like a really weird mechanic. But yep, now it's time to attack. In this case, it's probably best that we take out their monster as well here. This guy only has 2,000 attack and 1 critical, so we'll use him to take out their size 0 with only 1,000 defense. That works. If the attack and defense are equal, the attacking monster still defeats the opposing monster. So that's, I think that's the same as Vanguard. Your attack goes through if their attack is equal to the guard. And then our attack here. We attack with this guy, Systemic Dagger Dragon. We do 2 critical, so we do 2 damage, and we bring them down to 5. So they're nearly in Gargantua Punisher range. Next turn, probably the Dragon World deck will be able to beat this deck, unless this turn this deck can defeat this one. So it's a pretty fast-paced game, just because you're drawing basically double the amount of cards each turn and stuff like that. Now, here's a card they can use here to save them. The key to this deck defeating this one is to keep its life up, and this card can do that. Only if you have a weapon equipped, this card gives you 4 life, and if you've used this card multiple times per turn, its effect, it decreases every time. So right now the first Invigorating Breath gives us 4 life back. Next time we use it there'll be 1 in the drop zone, so it's 3, 2, 1, and then 0 gradually. Okay. In this case, it puts us straight up back up to 9 for Danger World. So right out of range of Gargantua Punisher. Very effective move. They also play their card to the center, 5,000 to critical, and what they can do is now here's something interesting. This thing has 6,000 defense. Neither of these two cards has 6,000 attack. So there's no way for this to attack this, get it out of the way, and then this. They also have no cards in their hand to get rid of it easier as well. But there is an ability in this game called a link attack, where you can basically attack one monster with two things. And you basically just do that by attacking with them at the same time. So they attack together. You add the attack, so 5,000 plus 5,000 is 10,000. Plus, obviously, this has penetrate, so this is going to do some damage to us. So 10,000 is enough to defeat this. It's destroyed, and we take 1 damage because of penetrate. And we go down to 3 over here. So you can sort of see how close some of these games get. It's really, really fun game to play. But obviously, this could be the first time I actually get to finish one of these games. But at the same time, some of them can go on a surprisingly long amount of time. We draw a card into our hand, and we kind of want to use this monster, because there's one thing about this game you can't do. In Cardfight Vanguard, you can move monsters up and down zones. In this case, unless you have an ability called Move, you can't actually move like this monster into the center to protect you. So in this case, we do need this monster, so there's no point in charge or drawing just yet. So we'll play Systemic Dagger Dragon in the center. This one obviously stands back up. And again, we're in a kind of situation here. So we'll have the one on the right attack this guy. He only has 3,000 defense. He gets destroyed. And this attacks the flag directly. And they take 2 damage. And then it goes back to their turn. And you can see how the game goes back and forth. And as I said, the win condition for the Dragon World deck right now is Gargantua Punisher, though this deck can just defeat it by attacking back and forth. But there's a pretty even game, and my one fear, I suppose, getting this game was that just based on the show, the way the games have gone the show so far, plus what I've seen some people who got it really early talk about, was that games end really quickly. And admittedly, this takes a lot longer because I'm doing it on camera, explaining every move in detail. But these games go by quickly, but last longer than you would expect. Because in the show, I think Gao, the main character, has won in like 1 turn. Basically, he's managed to do that. He has actually done that. I think once, twice. I think one of the characters went first. They did a couple of damage to him. And then he just got this perfect hand and managed to win the game that turn, Gargantua Punisher at the end. It was really impressive. Like, if you go too aggressive too quickly, if you weapon on your first turn to attack with, you could get wiped out by a Dragon World deck first turn. But that's I'll talk more about that sort of stuff in the strategy section. But next I'll go into card rarities. I think I've explained more or less how to play the game in detail. There are obviously some cards I just don't have yet that have other abilities, but yeah, that's all I can really explain right now. It's a very simple game to play. It's probably of all the games that I've done this series about, this has been the easiest one to learn. It took me playing 1 game to basically get the gist of all the rules, and I think in that first game I only made 1 mistake, and it wasn't even that big of a mistake. After that, this is just such an easy game to pick up. It's really fun. I'm interested to see where it goes actually from here, but I'll give some final thoughts in the next segment. Okay, so now I'm going to talk a bit about the rarities of these cards. The trial deck cards don't have a rarity, as is the case with, I think, all Bushiroad stuff, but I did get 5 packs of these cards, as you saw in my last opening video. We'll start off with the least rare, which is a common card, which is obviously noted by that C there on the card, just beside the number. And you get 3 of these in every pack. You get 1 uncommon, which you can see here, just is designated by that U there. And you only get 1 of these in every pack, which oddly makes them, like, I think, rarer to... It's kind of harder to collect the full set of uncommons than it is to collect the full set of rares. One, because there's more uncommons than there is rares, but also because there's a chance that your rare will be an ultra rare and stuff like that. So that's a really weird situation for this game to be in. As you can see here, here's some of the rare. Here's 3 rares that I got. That's just designated by the single rare right there. This is just you get one of these in every pack, or you have a chance to get a higher rarity card. The main difference here is that the card name is in shiny gold, and also if the spell is also gold. But if it's a monster, as you can see here, the size, the wording monster, also the critical, attack and defense are gold, as well as the name. Same with the generic cards, same situation. You can see the shininess all over it. They're pretty nice. I think the Magic World rares are kind of hard to read because the font of these cards is kind of really chunky, but on these kind of more fancy writing here, it's a bit hard. Next is a double rare. I got 2 of these out of my 5 packs. So there you can go. You can see the 2 rares, 2 ores right there, and the same on this card. And the main thing about these is, sorry about this. This is really awkward to focus on, but you can see it's shiny all around the card. It's like a super rare from Yu-Gi-Oh, and it's pretty nice. So that's the second rarity. The same with this one, Dragon World, Danger World. There are also triple rares, but I didn't get any of them. There are also SPs, I didn't get any of them, and also a Buddy rare card. I'm actually going to show you a picture right now of the Buddy rare card because I think it's a really nice looking card. Very gold, not for everyone, but there is only one in every set. As for the shiny cards from the trial decks, I think that this is triple rare pattern, I think. But I'm not sure. It could just be a special super rare pattern, double rare pattern, or it could be SP pattern. I'm not really sure. I don't think anyone really knows that much, but that's just what the shinies in the trial deck look like. And yeah, obviously the big thing Bushiroad changed in terms of the rarities from Vanguard to this game were the additions of Buddy rares, which don't really affect you that much. Like, Jackknife Dragon had no support in the first pack. Like, there's a whole kind of archetype of Jackknife Dragon cards, and he's the only one you get in the first set. So, you know, he's not like something you need to get, but he is the rarest card in the set. And then the other thing was the addition of uncommons. I think in Vanguard there's only like commons, and then it goes straight up to rare. There's no uncommons, and it just makes it harder to get all the cards. Okay, so final segment is just going to be some final thoughts on stuff like competitive, and then like closing thoughts on what I think of the game overall. I did, after I turned off the camera, continue that game that I played in the kind of tutorial section, and the Danger World deck won in the end, and this ended up being the key card. It is a deck that is focused around playing weapons. A lot of the spells, the impact card, specifically say you have to have a weapon in your center, and this one really helps with that out. And it ended up winning like just one turn later. It went back to the Dragon World's turn, and basically they had to draw a monster. I didn't draw a monster, so I had to, with the Dragon World deck, gauge Gargantua Punisher to get another monster on the field. And so basically, no matter what happened, really, the game was going to end this turn. I think the only way that a game wouldn't have ended was if I drew a monster that had 1 critical, but good enough defense to survive like an attack or 2. So it kind of just shows that sometimes being really aggressive in this game can work, and Hysteric Spear really worked out. But with the Dragon World trial deck, it is Gargantua Punisher that is the best card, because it means that all you have to do is basically do 6 damage to your opponent, get them down to 4, and if you have this card in hand, you've basically won the game. It means that you only have to kind of play like just over half a game, like do enough damage to your opponent and then do this. It means that your opponent's kind of always very careful with their life points and stuff like that. It's some nice strategy to it, and I can definitely see this being a very interesting game once more sets come out, especially once Magic World gets a theme deck, and it's easier to play with that world and not just having to buy a lot of packs. Because that while you have a very weapon and high attack power monster focused deck, and with this one you have a kind of, this is probably the more balanced deck. It kind of tends to have a lot of kind of mid-range medium attack monsters, reasonably good defenses, really strong impact card. While Magic World is super spell focused, it's got weaker monsters, but it's got so many more spells than these two worlds. And then there's Katana World, a kind of ninja focused world coming out in the next set, which should be cool. And then there's another, I think, world coming out. Looks to be like an undead kind of zombie type world, maybe. It's just rumored really right now, but that should be interesting. And especially once this game has lots of worlds, there's so much variety that there could be here. But right now, I haven't really seen a ton of kind of competitive stuff. I think a lot of the agreement with people, I think, is that some of the is that you probably shouldn't really put too many size 3 monsters in your deck, especially in stuff that doesn't have grade 0s, just because it's so easy for like a card like, say, this to just use a piercing attack on a really powerful grade 3 monster and just do a ton of damage through penetrate ability. Not to mention they limit you so much in that you can only have grade 0 monsters with grade 3s, and so that it just means that you want to play more monsters just so you can do more damage. And it's just a game where like having a massive amount of defense doesn't help you too much as well, from what I've seen. And just overall, for me, I probably tend to see between these two worlds to prefer the Dragon World deck, just because I prefer to play the game a little bit more. Most card games, I prefer to play them a little bit more defensively than offensively, so Dragon World is the more defensive deck, and I kind of like that. In the probably 10 or so games I've played, it's probably come out about even. Like, I think this puts it up 6-5 Danger World, this trial tutorial, the match I've done during this video, puts it just in the favour of Danger World, but just overall seem like they're very evenly matched decks. Like, they play two very different ways, though at the same time you can play them similarly. The higher power monsters, the inclusion of grade 0s in this deck give it a slight advantage, but the extra defensive cards and the really powerful impact are the kind of positives for this one. But yeah, overall I really love this game. I think, as I said in the last segment, one of the most fun experiences I've ever had learning to play a card game, and probably the fastest I've ever picked one up in terms of like knowing straight away how to play. And by the second game I played, I felt like I know the gist of all of the rules right now. I get the strategy of this game. I know how to play it. Just that first game while you're learning how to play the rules, you kind of don't put enough monsters on the field. You get wiped out maybe quickly. You go in too soon with the weapons. Don't quite know how to use the counter cards, spell cards properly. But by game 2, I got all that, and I think it's just a really easy game to pick up. And especially comparing this to, say, Magic the Gathering, I think that's the game where like you have to think about every single play you do in a lot of detail. While with this game, there are a lot of decisions. Like, there's a surprising amount of decisions, as I showed you during the game. Like, do you put a lot of monsters on the field? Do you go for the higher powered monster? Do you put the weapon out? Do you try and base playing the game all around the impact card? Or do you, if you get it early on in your hand, do you use it as something to gauge earlier on and hope you draw another one? There's a lot of nice decisions here, and it seems like just a very fun game to play. There's not a insane level of strategy. The matches end really quickly, and I can sort of see some maybe way to improve the game, as in just like starting off but maybe like 15 life as opposed to 10, just so the matches last a little bit longer and you get to use a bit more of your deck. I could see that working out reasonably well, just to make the matches longer. You can sort of tell that as they've launched this game, they've kind of changed the rules a little bit with regards to some things, but overall it seems like as I said before, I kept repeating myself, it's a fun game, easy to get into, and if you don't play any other card games, this is a good one to start off with because we're still on the first set. It's not overly complicated with a bunch of different worlds. You just have a choice really between two so far, and if you want to get into it a bit more, you've got Magic World to kind of get into. But there will be other trial decks coming out. I think they've said something like there's going to be 5 or 6 by the end of this year, and hopefully that includes a Magic World deck and a Katana World deck. I think we know the next deck is going to be another Dragon World deck about the other main character, and I think there's been rumors of a second Gao deck, probably when he improves it or something like that in the show. There'll be something like that, and it'll probably have Drumbunker Dragon in it. That'll probably be the way they put him in a trial deck. And yeah, hopefully there's those ones. I really want to try out Katana World, but at the same time I also want to try out Magic World because that just seems really fun. It's definitely a game I think I'm going to keep up with. I'm not going to get super into it, but I'll probably at the very least try a few packs of each new set that comes out, buy the trial decks. I don't think I see myself buying a booster box for every single set, getting really into it, wanting to build decks, but just have a kind of fun time when a new world comes out, get the trial deck for the world, and just adds extra options, see how Dragon World does against this new world, see how Danger World does against this new one, and so on. Very excited for this game. Highly recommended. I think, games like Yu-Gi-Oh!, Magic, even Vanguard probably have more strategy to them than this game. But if you just want a fun time playing a card game, this is it, pretty much. Definitely, I think there's the potential where, if they don't pay enough attention to maybe make something super powerful in that, you do have a lot of card effects that say just straight up nullify the attack, do this, do that. But yeah, very, very impressed with Buddyfight. I didn't expect the game to be this good to play when I was kind of waiting for the cards, but then when I played it, excellent game in my opinion. Very highly rated, and I should probably mention that even Vanguard, which I think when I did my video I wasn't that kind of as positive on the game as I am now. Now that I have other Vanguard trial decks, it really helps me see how good that game is. So just in terms of this, it really helped me realize that in terms of me liking trading card games, it's not that I want to choose one. I actually like getting a little bit into everyone, so there's always something new in each card game. So that's the end of this video, my future card Buddyfight Airspeed Plays video. I'll have some more of these videos coming out about some other card games fairly soon, hopefully. In addition to that, I'll also have some other card opening videos. I think I'm waiting on about 3 orders to arrive. As I said, these were delayed, they came in, I'm still waiting for other stuff that was delayed too. So I'll have some more videos about card games coming out very soon, hopefully. So thanks for watching this video, and bye.